Hey, what's going on, guys? OJ back here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about all the fights that the UFC needs to book after UFC Rio. Now, I'm not going to list every single fighter that fought on this card. I'm just going to be listing the fighters that I really care for. I'm going to have a set of hypothetical matchups for you guys in a couple of seconds, so without wasting any more time, let's jump right into the video. Okay, let's just get the obvious fights out of the way. We got Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway 2. I mean, both fighters literally called each other out. Charles Oliveira called out Max Holloway in his post-fight interview after submitting Mateusz Gamrot in the second round. And Max Holloway on stream has said he's perfectly fine with rematching Oliveira, all right? Because their first fight, supposedly ended in a fluke, according to Max Holloway. All right, this is the fight to make. I don't really like the BMF belt, but if we're gonna give the BMF belt to any two fighters right now, I guess it's gotta be Charles Oliveira and Max Holloway, all right? And the winner then can be in talks for a potential title shot. So, Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway, book it sometime in the early or middle parts of 2026. Again, this is kind of an IQ test for all the matchmakers like Hunter Campbell and Sean Shelby because this looks pretty obvious, all right? And don't get me wrong, I am worried for Charles Oliveira for this hypothetical matchup, but if this is not booked, then I don't know who you give Oliveira because he's fought nearly everybody else. So, book this fight unless Sean Shelby and the matchmakers are completely incompetent, then this should be the bare minimum that we should be getting sometime in early 2026. All right, now moving on, we got Mateusz Gamrot versus Rafael Fiziev. Gamrot lost to Charles Oliveira, of course. I just say let's book the rematch with Rafael Fiziev. Their first fight ended because Fiziev just tore his knee apart in the middle of throwing a kick. It was kind of a weird injury. And Mateusz Gamrot has been open to the rematch, all right? Now, Fiziev was supposed to fight Charles Oliveira for this fight, but then he tore his knee once again, and Mateusz Gamrot stepped in. All right, both guys, I guess, kind of deserve a little bit of a reward. I mean, technically, Mateusz Gamrot is fighting down the rankings, but it could be worse. He could be fighting someone like fucking Benoit Saint-Denis, or maybe like a Patty and like anybody that's like way down in the rankings. Like it could be a lot worse for Mateusz Gamrot. But fortunately, he did step up on short notice. As for Rafael Fiziev, he is coming off a win against Ignacio Bahamondes. So I say book this fight. All right. This is very approachable and also pretty obvious. So if Sean Shelby doesn't do it, then he is a complete retard. So yeah, book this fight and let's move on. All right, now moving on, we got Deiveson Figuereido versus Eamon Zahabi. Now, Figueiredo, he's kind of in an awkward spot in the division right now because he's lost to Peter Yan, he's lost to Corey Sandhagen, but he beat Chito Vera, right? He lost to number 3 and 4 in the bantamweight division, but beat number 7. And he's ranked number 6. And he just beat number 15. It's kind of an awkward spot. Like, divisional wise, it makes sense for him to fight Song Yadong, but I do think that Song Yadong is looking to fight soon, and I don't think Deiveson Figueiredo is looking to fight that soon after beating Montel Jackson. All right, so what I say is have Deiveson Figueiredo fight Eamon Zahabi, win or lose. All right, Eamon Zahabi, I don't know. Like, I do think he's gonna beat Chito Vera. So I guess this is a tiny jump up in competition. And plus, Figueiredo did beat Chito Vera not that long ago. Uh, actually, no. If Eamon Zahabi somehow loses to Chito Vera, though, I don't know who you book him. What I'm gonna be confident that Zahabi beats Chito Vera in 2025 because it's Chito Vera in 2025. So Deiveson Figueiredo, Eamon Zahabi, book it. All right, I'm pretty sure Eamon Zahabi's gonna go the distance. He's gonna look for some time off. I know for sure that Deiveson Figueiredo is gonna need a lot of time off because he's fucking 38 years old at bantamweight. So I don't know. Assuming Eamon Zahabi wins this fight against Chito Vera next week, have him fight Deiveson Figueiredo. I think it's the pretty obvious matchup Figueiredo's not in a position where he can be really looking for someone up the rankings because he's coming off fresh losses to the number 3 and 4 guy in the division. So have him fight one more guy, a little bit below him in the rankings, and if Figueiredo can win that, then let's say we give him someone like an Umar Nurmagomedov or possibly like any other title eliminator bout. All right, now up next we got Montel Jackson versus Farid Basharat. All right, now I did think of another matchup for Farid Basharat because he didn't look that impressive to me against Chris Gutierrez. But looking at the division right now, Farid Basharat is on a long win streak. Montel Jackson coming off that loss to Deiveson Figuereido. I think this is a matchup that kind of makes sense. You know, both guys are kind of uneventful point fighters who don't really fight all that often. And I don't know. I do think that Montel Jackson, like, he's not really gonna get a push up the rankings anytime soon because again, at best, he fights once a year. Fatih Basharat also fights at best once a year, and he fought last week on UFC 320. All right, so their schedules line up. Neither guy really took that much damage, so it's not like any guy needs to take more time off. So have them fight sometime in the middle of 2026, and the winner gets to keep the number 15 spot in the bantamweight division. All right, now moving on, we got Joel Alvarez versus Kevin Holland. Now I understand that Kevin Holland is fighting next weekend against Mike Malott, but I say book it regardless. All right, Joel Alvarez coming off that win against Vicente Luque. If Kevin Holland wins, then cool, we get to jump Joel Alvarez up for a potential spot in the welterweight rankings. And if Kevin Holland loses, then cool. Joel Alvarez gets to build his name up against someone who's like relatively well known in the bottom rankings to the unranked sections of the welterweight division. And then we can properly give him like someone who's like higher up in the rankings. All right. Either way, I see this as a win for Joel Alvarez. Kevin Holland, again, he's even if he loses, he's gonna be relatively active. You know, he just lost to Daniel Rodriguez in July, and now he's fighting 3 months later against Mike Malott. So I'm not gonna be worried about Kevin Holland possibly taking a long time off unless he gets a catastrophic injury or he gets knocked out cold. But I don't think Mike Mallett's going to be the one to knock him out cold. So win or lose, I say book Joel Alvarez versus Kevin Holland, and then we can see whether or not Joel Alvarez actually can make a run for the welterweight belt. All right, now moving on, we got Vicente Luque versus Gunnar Nelson. Now, if this were up to me, I would tell Vicente Luque to retire. But assuming that Vicente Luque is going to fight, let's have him fight another unk in the division who's on a little bit of a loss streak in Gunnar Nelson. All right. Both guys are not looking at the peak of their shape. Both guys are old as hell in the welterweight division. Vicente Luque took a lot of damage, so he needs some time off. Gunnar Nelson, he's just inactive as hell. All right. I say book this sometime late 2026. All right. This is also very approachable for Vicente Luque. It's not someone who can like really beat the crap out of him on the feet. Like sure, Gunnar Nelson has better jiu-jitsu than Joel Alvarez in my opinion, but at the same time, Gunnar Nelson does not really hit nearly as hard as Joel Alvarez does, and he doesn't have the slickness in his strikes like a Joel Alvarez does. All right, Vicente Luque also can get submitted, so this is not a complete one-sided matchup for Gunnar Nelson either. And I think this is an approachable matchup for either guy. All right, they're not fighting anybody who's on the come up that the UFC is wanting to kind of build up as a legitimate prospect. So I'm pretty sure that both of these guys will take this fight, and let's see where Vicente Luque stands from there. But in all honesty, though, like he should have retired years ago, but I don't think he's going to. All right, now moving on, we got Mario Pinto versus Tai Tuivasa. Now, I'm just gonna say this: I don't think Tai Tuivasa should be ranked in the UFC heavyweight division, and Mario Pinto is deserving of a ranking spot in the heavyweight division. I think he's like 3-0 in the UFC right now. Or is it 2-0? Not sure, but like he did come off pretty impressive performances back to back. You know, he knocked out Austin Lane, then he ground and pound TKO'd a Janata Denise. I say the next person Mario Pinto fights, Tai Tuivasa. And keep in mind, Pinto is actually good, right? Is there a chance that Tai Tuivasa flukes a KO? Yes, but realistically, that's a lot of guys, a lot of fat blobs in the like bottom rankings of the heavyweight division. And Mario Pinto's gonna have to fight one of them anyways. So if he's gonna have to fight one of them anyways, it might as well be the guy who's just hogging on to a ranking spot in 2025. And that guy is Tai Tuivasa. So Mario Pinto, Tai Tuivasa, assuming that Tuivasa keeps his word and is looking to fight in early 2026, let's make this fight happen. All right, now up next, we got Kaan Ofli versus Michael Aswell Jr. Both of these guys fought on the Rio card. Both of these guys went against absolute schmucks and got first round finishes against these absolute schmucks. All right. I don't rate either of them particularly highly, regardless. All right. I know they're both coming off round one finishes, but their opponents are absolute schmucks. So have them fight each other. All right. And the winner of this, I guess, can get a jump up in the featherweight rankings. But again, I don't rate either of them particularly highly. But at the same time, this is approachable for either guy because both guys have flaws in their games. So, Kaan Ofli, Michael Aswell Jr., book it. Neither guy really took that much damage. Both of them are the same schedule. Both of them are in similar standings of the division. I think this is the fight to make. All right, now moving on, we got Jafel Filho versus Jesus Aguilar. Jafel Filho is coming off a round one submission over Clayton Carpenter. Now, Jafel Filho is actually good, but my problem is he did lose to Alan Nascimento, who is vying for a ranking spot pretty soon. I don't know. It's like on some November Apex card. I don't remember which one. But Jafel Filho, he did submit Clay Carpenter in the first round, which was pretty impressive considering Tagir Ulanbekov to Clayton Carpenter do a decision. So I guess the only matchup right now that's on similar schedule is Jesus Aguilar. Jesus Aguilar fought on the Noche card last month, and he beat Luis Garule. Both of these guys are in similar standings of the division, somewhere around like the top 25-ish of the flyweight division. Both of these guys did lose to some elite level opposition, but have been able to win a lot of their fights. And also, both of these guys have pretty good ground games overall. So I'm going to be interested to see who can be the better, grappler overall. Maybe Jesus Aguilar can get it done on the feet because I do think he's a more well-rounded fighter, but Jafel Filho, in my opinion, has the better jiu-jitsu. So I think this is the fight to make. It's a pretty interesting stylistic matchup. They're in similar standings at the division. Their schedules aren't that far apart. And both of these guys, like, if they win like two more fights, they can potentially find themselves in the rankings of the flyweight division. So I think this is the fight to bake. And the winner of this can be looking for someone like, I don't know, someone just outside the rankings of the flyweight division. All right, now moving on, we got Vitor Petrino versus Kennedy Nizuchuku. Vitor Petrino coming off that third round knockout win over Thomas Peterson. And while that was one of the nastiest knockouts I have ever seen, I still don't think Vitor Petrino's that good. All right, it wasn't that long ago when Anthony Smith literally guillotined him in the first round, and even the fight with Peterson yesterday, Vitor Petrino prior to the knockout did not look all that impressive. So I guess have him fight Kennedy Nizuchuku. Both guys were on the fringe contention for ranking spots. Right, Kennedy Nizuchuku was on a 3-fight win streak before he had to face Walter Walker. No shame in losing to Walter Walker. So if Kennedy Nizuchuku beats Vitor Petrino, he's back in the mix for a potential ranking spot in the heavyweight division. And if Vitor Petrino wins, then he gets a high ranking opponent in the heavyweight division. Last but not least, Bia Mesquita beat Irina Alekseeva by dominant submission in the second round. Where she beat the crap out of her in the process. Have her fight Daria Zalesnikova. Right? I don't know how Daria Zalesnikova is ranked in the bantamweight division, but seeing as how Bia Mesquita is a prospect that the UFC is interested in procuring, let's have her fight Daria Zalesnikova. All right. I think this is an approachable matchup for both fighters. Right, Bia Mesquita is an elite level grappler who can just easily take down Zalesnikova, but at the same time, Mesquita's striking hasn't been tested all that highly. So if Daria Zalesnikova can somehow magically defend the takedowns, I do think she has the edge on the feet. Alright, book this fight. Again, I don't know how Daria Zalesnikova is ranked, but I guess this is the free ranking spot for Bia Mesquita. So book this fight and let's see how good Bia Mesquita actually is. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video. If you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like and subscribe so we can get this channel monetized. But otherwise, leave a comment down below what you guys think about these hypothetical matchups. And otherwise, I'll probably post my predictions for UFC Vancouver sometime soon. So stay tuned for that. And other than that, though, I'll see you guys later. Peace.